Ricky Ranchu. Alright, it's been about a month since I've had this pond of Daphnia, and there is like so many in there. This is about 55 gallons. There's so many in there. And whenever I feed it, it clears the very next day. So I just fed it, so you're not going to be able to see very many. Maybe if we get a little closer, you can kind of see them. And anyway, I might film more tomorrow, but there are like thousands and thousands in there, and I feed my goldfish, my ranchu, these like every day, and I still like full netfuls, and I still can't seem to over harvest. When I feed with the yeast, it clears up the next day, and I have to feed again. So it's like every day you're feeding yeast. I've noticed that when you put algae wafers in there and it gets enough sun, the water turns green, and it takes them longer to go through that. And I think that's a better way to feed than just yeast. I think it's a good combination for your whatever you're feeding these Daphnia to. But the reason I wanted to make this video wasn't because of this pond, it was because of the 2 10 gallons that crashed. So let's take a look at those. So these cultures crashed, and the water was just dead. Like, it got on the right one, it got to the point where they wouldn't come back. Usually Daphnia, after they die off, they come back in a few days. The left one came back a little bit, and that's because I water changed, but it was just gross. It just smelled terrible. I had to completely wipe everything clean and get as much out of it as I could. You can see at the bottom there, I still have a little bit of what's left of the Java moss, because I probably siphoned the rest out. But, you know, so I pretty much put new water in here from an established tank, as in, you know, before my weekly water change. After my weekly water change, I filled these back up with the old tank water, so they seem to be doing fine. I got these guys from outside because the outside ones are bulletproof because I'm not overfeeding. I think the reason is what I'm supposed to use to feed these guys is mixing it in this little shot glass so I don't use so much and just feed very little and harvest often. I think that's the key to Daphnia. Feed a little bit and harvest often, because they're going to be constantly making babies with eggs. Now, for the pond outside, I use this cup, and I use a ton of the yeast, and it's going well. Sometimes I throw the algae wafer in there to try to make green water, but yeah, everything's going well. It doesn't smell anymore, thank God. It was awful. It was so bad, but it's just an update, and maybe you guys will learn something from my failures, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and feed these guys now. The water's clear because I just filled them back up, so I'm going to use less this time. So I guess a good technique would be, so when you're doing your weekly water changes on your other tanks, make sure it's at the end of the week, you use water from those other tanks to fill these back up after you clean them. So if you just do that, even if you do suck up some Daphnia, the overall colony will survive. So if you have 2 of these, you could probably do like water change 1 every other week and fill it up with aged water from your other tanks, because it's the chlorine and the dechlorinator that, or the water conditioner, that actually kill the Daphnia. So after about a week, all that stuff is dissipated and they should be fine. So that'd probably be the best way to go about it. And then you're not, and it's good because you're not necessarily like wasting water as much when you're doing your water changes. So just a little tip, just something I was thinking about. Okay, I added the yeast in there. Well, they seem to have perked up a little bit. So basically, I want to also add or reiterate that Daphnia tanks need water changes too. They need to be siphoned and cleaned. It gets dirty. They die and they pollute the tank. Or they have waste and they pollute the tank. They need water changes. at some point. You can go pretty long without it because they're super tolerant, but eventually they will need water changes. So now that the sun's come down, you can get a better angle of just how many Daphnia are in here. Let's see if we can focus. And it's not really doing it much justice, but just gonna do an example. Just gonna take the net. I'm just gonna randomly, even in the shaded areas. So look at that. That's how much I'm pulling out a day, and I can't even like make a dent. That's a crazy amount. So I'm not running out anytime soon. I gotta start selling these on Craigslist. Thanks for watching. Remember, fish don't keep themselves.